Hello, welcome to my first reading of my story. It doesn't have a title yet, but hey, we'll get there. Alright, let's get into it so I don't waste your time anymore. And this is the prologue. I'm going to run another test. You liar, you told me this was the last one. I'm so close, don't interfere now. We're out of time. All that's missing is your power core. The doctor plunged his hand into the man's chest. Blue sparks flew from his body, engulfing the room in a neon light. His screams echoed in different pitches, breaking the windows that filled the room. The doctor yanked his hand out, receiving a glowing orb, causing everything to stop. His eyes turned pitch black as he collapsed to the floor, leaving the room in an eerie peace. You'll be committed for this. I'll make sure she's perfect in your honor. He walked over to the large containment tube containing yellow liquid and a small silhouette floating inside. The doctor gently put his hand on the thick plexiglass that functions as a border between him and his greatest creation. Look, my child, I have your missing piece, the one you've longed for oh so long. The wind came from broken windows, like an uninvited guest asking for more than just sugar. This was it. All of his trials and errors were finally about to pay off. Oh, that page. I'll keep reading. He removed his hand from the glass and typed in a 4-digit code on the keypad the containment tube harbored. The sound of hissing could be heard while the top of the tube slowly came off on its own. Time to redeem yourself, my dear. Let the world know your name. He flicked his hand, tossing the orb straight up. It stood suspended in the air for less than a second before landing in the container with a gentle plop. The doctor watched carefully as the orb sank ever so slowly to the bottom. Satisfied, he turned his back to return to his console to run one final test. But then, it cracked. The plexiglass that had grew a large diagonal line, dead center of the tube. The doctor turned only fear that his years of his work were about to be discarded. Was that fool right about her? My perfect creation? A dud? The doctor, full of disbelief, ran over to the tube that was oozing precious liquid onto the floor. The stuff was highly unstable. Regardless, the doctor had no choice. He pressed on and found himself yanking out all the cords and tubes that connected to his magnum opus. About 2 minutes went by before the doctor had realized the strong humidity in the air. The fool's core is ruining everything! The doctor struggled to breathe, but haphazardly used precious oxygen to express himself. The air was thick, forcing him to his knees. He couldn't handle it anymore. He thought if no electricity was infused with the substance, he could manually continue this last test run. However, he was too weak to lift a finger, let alone manually power one of his experiments. Luckily for him, he didn't need manual power. In his pocket was a small flash drive, full enough of potential energy to power a skyscraper. The doctor was saving it for next week's blackout, but he was out of options. The whole lab was going to be ruined by this near-nasty substance. He feebly made his way to the front of the chamber. The cracks were growing larger, and the liquid drained past the specimen's hip. The keypad on the tube was beyond broken, sending sparks in every direction. The doctor managed to force himself back onto his knees by pulling himself up on a pipe that the walls harbored. Unfortunately for him, the metal rod he grabbed was meant for controlling temperature. This resulted in an ice burn. Damn. The doctor was tough, but this sensation of pain was starting to push it. Regardless of how he was feeling, he was 2 steps away from greatness. Knowing this fact, without a second thought, he plunged the flash drive into the broken port, expecting the best. A few sparks flew from the broken port, but that's about it. The room sat dead silent for a minute. This was driving the doctor mad. Was it not enough power, or was the port just too broken? This was getting tedious now. Now this isn't working either. Then, like lightning, a jolt of burning heat flew through the pipe the doctor was using for support. Fucking train! Anyway. Almost instantly, the doctor fell to the ground holding his hand in agony. Thankfully, he didn't have to focus on the pain for very long. When he looked up, his eyes graced him with what looked like a bubbling cauldron. The small amount of liquid that had been sitting at the bottom had started to dance within the tube, shrouding the figure in a bubbly mass. The room was Jesus, I cannot speak. The room was filled with the bright neon light the liquid was producing. Yellow, thin blue, and back to yellow again. The doctor was left to watch in awe as his body was too numb to lift even a finger. The fumes from the spilt liquid was so much stronger near the ground. Again, the tube had changed its hue. This time, it was a harsh shade of purple. Staying purple, the tube began to glow brighter and brighter. It didn't take long for it to become a micro sun in a jar. But alas, it was over just as it had begun. The glowing stopped, the wind ceased, even the tube stopped leaking. The doctor forced a laugh, just barely hanging on to consciousness. You see, there are no limits to my scientific prowess. Before he could keep laughing, the power to the entire building went off, leaving the room in a black standstill. It didn't take long for the backup lights to come into play, shrouding the room in a blanket of crimson red light. The doctor, eyes still readjusting to the light, looked up to only find that his hard work and effort was truly in vain. The tube has changed its color along with the room, showing off its crimson hue. This was bad. He'd seen red before, but this shade of Raid Shadowlit. But this shade of red was new. Although the intensity of the fumes had calmed down, the doctor was still rendered powerless. He allowed too much to enter his body, and now was officially paralyzed. The doctor watched helplessly as the crimson shade of the tube became darker and darker. Eventually, it was pitch black. The doctor feared the truth of this color. The subject was dead. Within the murky liquid, all that could be seen was the faint blue glow the orb was producing. It didn't take long for that to flicker off too. The doctor sat in silence for a moment, letting his failure and current state sink in. It was over, and the silence was setting in fast, leaving the doctor to rethink his foolish mistake. But he couldn't even get that right. Just when it was over, it began. The tube cracked itself more, whipping out tons of cracks from the bottom up. Once those harsh lines reached the top of the container, a large snap rang throughout the room. It was followed by another snap, then another, then another. Before he knew it, the light shut off again, leaving the doctor in a cloak of darkness, leaving no backup lights to reassure him, leaving him all alone. Crash! The unmistakable sound of breaking diamonds filled the room. That sound the pieces made when they danced on the floor. Sounded like rain, too hard to be water, but too light to be hail. It was quiet after that, but then a footstep could be heard shuffling in the liquid. Then another. The doctor was no fool. He knew what that meant, and it left him ecstatic. The room was pitch black, but then she opened her eyes. The quiet red glow that emitted from her eyes shifted as she observed her surroundings. The air grew still, as the only sound that began to fill the room was her first breath. Jesus! It was a long intake of air, like she had been holding her breath for years, only to let out with a short sigh of relief. The doctor, with what little strength he had left, began to mutter, trying to get a sentence out. Her eyes darted at him, her movements stopping indefinitely. Wait. Great. The doctor fumbled his words, as his lips were too numb to press any words together. She smiled, her teeth piercing the darkness. Foolish father, you brought this pain onto mine. You made me suffer through your eyes. You made me your perfect design. All for what? To watch as you lay there, too caught up in your own ideals to realize you lost. You played with the enemy's toys, and today you learn. Her voice was rosy, with a side of poison spice. Her eyes locked onto the doctor as she shuffled towards him. Her eyes and teeth were almost ghastly, getting more and more intense the closer she got. That smile, that wicked smile, that could make a kindergartner wet the bed, loomed over the doctor. As she stood there, her breath became shallow, as if the air around her was nothing but humidity. Breaking the silence, lightning broke the sky, emitting everything in a white light. Her face became visible for a brief moment, revealing her features, her long hair, and adult figure. Shrouded in darkness, she got down to the doctor's level, shifting her devilish smile into a frown of disapproval. You took my brother out of commission for your twisted ideals. Her eyes shifted to the side of the room for a brief moment, then back to the helpless doctor sprawled out in front of her. Idiot, she muttered. He should be dead. She picked up a large shard of glass that lied next to the doctor, and a devilish smile grew back on her face. She crouched a little closer to the doctor and whispered, Time to return the favor, Father. She raised her arm, laughing slow and maniacally. Lightning flashed again, this time revealing the glass shard in her hand. Then the light died down in the room. It was eerily quiet. Tink, tink. No? Too much for the sound effects? Oh, okay, I'll keep doing them. The glass shard was dropped. Her left eye was blue. No. I need time. I need to finish what he started. Her voice was cold, and her breathing became frantic. It was dark. All that could be heard was the scraping of the glass shard on the floor and the sound of someone struggling to get enough oxygen. She covered her left eye with the palm of her hand, and a small burst of energy managed to pick up the shard from the floor. In a second attempt, this time seeming desperate, she raised her arm. The tip of the shard glimmered with the red light from the warm glow of her eye. Goodbye, you monster. She stopped. Her movements, her breath, even her hellish smile. She had run out of time. Both of her eyes were blue, and she was left looking straight ahead, like something or someone was there. No, she muttered. It's not time for this. The blue glow started to grow brighter. Please, you fool, a few more seconds. The glow quickly became an intense light. With the last of her breath, she whispered, I'll never forgive you. The bluish-white light blinded the room. It didn't take long for the light to fade away. However, when the light disappeared, it took her along with it, leaving a bundle of fireflies where she was positioned. It's a good thing the doctor was unconscious, face first, and bubbling in a pool of mistakes. Alright. Well, there it is. First prologue, not even the chapter. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Peace!